or something. But it's not the most productive use of my time. At the end of 30 minutes of scrolling through Instagram or looking at TikTok, I don't have any tangible evidence that I spent 30 minutes. I basically spent it doing nothing. But at least if I spend 30 minutes writing a letter, maybe I've connected with 5 or 6 people, maybe I've connected with one person with one really deep letter. But at the end of that 30 minutes, I have a tangible piece of mail that I'm ready to send away and hopefully brighten somebody's day in the future. Next, to have a paper record, we've learned so much about history through letters. There's the written history and then there's the letter history, and sometimes that doesn't always correspond. Sometimes we find out more about a historical figure through their letters than we know about them through their public life. I'd like to think someday historians will read the letters that my pen pals and I have shared, and talking about the pandemic and sharing our experiences during the pandemic, giving a little social history about the pandemic or just any other time in history. And if future historians aren't looking at my mail, at least when I'm older and grayer, I can look through the mail and remember what it was like to experience these times. And then lastly, to show that you care. I think taking the time to write someone a physical letter or a physical greeting card, it shows you care in a different way than just sending them a text or giving them or calling them on the phone can do. A birthday card, a sympathy card, the rarity of mail to me makes it all the more special. And it's not just the stationery that you're writing it on, but it's the gift of your time and yourself sharing that moment with them. I know, especially right now during the pandemic, I haven't been able to see my parents and a lot of my friends as much, but mail has really kept us connected in a way that Zooms and phone calls and text messages haven't. It's nice to have that instant communication, but mail, that slow communication is a little bit deeper sometimes. Okay. I know whenever I tell people that sending letters is my hobby, they're always a little bit surprised, and I always hear 1,000 excuses as to why people don't mail things anymore. I know people are really busy. Text messages and social media are so instant. It is just so easy to send somebody a quick text letting them know of something that happened in your day, or sending them happy birthday messages or sympathy messages on Facebook or through a text. But again, the reason that mail is so special is because it's that little bit of extra effort, and that extra effort really shows that you care. And so I want to share just a few things, a few excuses and a few reasons why I think those excuses can easily be debunked. First of all, I always hear no one sends mail anymore. And even the title of this presentation is The Lost Art of Letter Writing. To me, this is the best reason to send mail. Be that person who sends paper birthday cards or paper thank you notes instead of just texting or writing on someone's Facebook wall. Be that person who always sends a sympathy card or a thinking of you card when people are going through a hard time. In the early 2000s, I had an old coworker, and he told me that when his father died, he was like in his, I think, early 20s when his dad died. When his father died, the only guy friend who sent him a card was this guy, Doug. And for some reason, like Joe just always remembered that as Doug must be a really good guy because he sent me a sympathy card. Like it doesn't take very much to surprise people. It doesn't take very much to make a mark in people's emotions, especially at hard times. And so giving that tangible gift, a tangible piece of mail, it really shows that you're making that extra effort. And also it's okay to do things that other people don't do. It's okay to, think out of the box. Next is I don't have the right supplies. I think mail is like one of the easiest things besides running and running shoes. Maybe mail is like the least expensive hobby that you can come up with. So for letter writing, you just need stamps, a pen, paper, envelopes. your address book, and then there's some optional things like stickers and washi tape and some specialized paper and greeting cards or postcards that kind of help things make your mail a little bit fancier. I always recommend a paper address book. I don't know how many of you have a paper address book, but for me, again, I know I'm going to sound like a phone addict right now, but for me, when I'm doing something analog, when I'm writing a letter, I don't want to have to pick up my phone to look up someone's address, because then I'll start texting someone or scrolling and I have lost all my letter writing time. My address book is just this really basic version from Hallmark. What I love about it is it lies flat. So when I'm addressing a letter, I don't have to hold it open and fill out the envelope at the same time. It's just one of those little things that I think makes things a little bit easier. I'm going to talk about a letter writing kit in a little bit, but for now, you just need these basic things. And your things don't have to be fancy or expensive for them to work well. I have just this basic white cotton paper that I love to write with. It's just plain paper, but they do provide, I don't know if you can see, they do provide a little line option that you can lay your paper on top of in case you're one of those crooked letter writers, either writing up or writing down. But the paper is just plain and it's beautiful. It's made of cotton, and you can fancy it up with rubber stamps or stickers, or you can leave it plain and just have like a nice classic letter sheet. But it's not very expensive, and it comes with, you can buy the envelopes separately, or you can find some other envelopes in your stash from other things to mail out. Let's see. Go on to our next. I know that it's going to sound ridiculous. Where do I find stamps? But I worked in a stationery store for 10 years and I got asked this question at least once a week. People are very busy and often don't want to stand in line at the post office to buy stamps. So I'm here to tell you, you can get them at the Jewel. The Jewel will carry just the basic flag stamps usually, which are pretty boring, but they get the job done. If you go to the post office, you always have like their nice latest selection. And also USPS.com has, I think, the best selection of stamps. They have basically whatever's in the warehouse, they still have up on the website. And they come out with new designs at least once a month. There's always a love stamp, which you can see on the screen. This is this year's love stamp, which is pretty fancy, I think. And then these other ones that I'm showing on the screen are the latest, or I guess they're from November, but they look kind of boring on the screen, but in real life, the thank you part with all the pretty scrolling and decorative flowers and things, that's all gold foil. And so they're very shiny and they have like such a deep, pretty color. So I've been using those on all of my thank yous. On deck for 2021, they have Star Wars stamps that are coming out. There's some that are celebrating the Day of the Dead. There's some with coffee. There's new postcard stamps with barns. There's always something fun to look forward to at the post office. So I always recommend, if you're going to start letter writing, or if you are a letter writer, get a nice little variety of stamps so that you can kind of meet each moment with the appropriate stamp. But again, the flag stamps work just fine. Another common complaint or excuse that I hear is, I don't know what to say. In a normal letter, if you're writing to a pen pal or to a family member, talk about what's happening in your day. Talk about the room around you and maybe what you're drinking and what you're listening to while you write the letter. Talk about what you're planning to do for the weekend. I promise you, with a little bit of wit, your letter will be happily received. I think that people are just so delighted to receive a letter that they don't care what you talk about. Just talk about whatever. But also ask them questions so that you can start that correspondence and keep the conversation going as you're writing letters. Also, practice makes perfect. You get better as you go. And to me, you get better as you develop the relationship with either a pen pal or with a family member. For sympathy cards, you can use books or Google to guide you and kind of get you started on what to say. I put these two books up on the screen. This one is The Art of the Handwritten Note by Margaret Shepard. And the other one is For the Love of Letters by Samira O'Shea. Both of these are just kind of basic guides about letters, just general letters, and also like what to say for a wedding card, what to say for a sympathy card, what to say in a birthday card, what to say in like maybe a birthday card in a professional situation. It just kind of gives you some ideas and gets you started. I don't like every single piece of advice in these books. Sometimes they're a little stodgy, like they recommend not using sympathy cards, but only, using your own words. I think that we can give people a little bit of grace and, just accept that it's the thought that counts. Also with sympathy cards, sharing a favorite poem or a quote can sometimes get you started with your own words and also provide some comfort to the recipient. I'm always late, and maybe this is just me, but this was my biggest problem for the longest time. There was a certain time in my life when I was way busier that I only purchased belated birthday cards because I knew that I was always going to be late. I just could never get my act together. I don't think that sending things late is the worst thing in the world. People understand. And again, when you're sending mail, you have a little bit of grace because you sent mail. But anyway, I think that lateness isn't always the worst thing, but there's ways to kind of help you stay on track. For birthdays, I have a perpetual calendar. I'm showing a couple on the screen where basically it's just a calendar without the month, the days of the week. So my husband's birthday is January 5th, and every January when I flip to the calendar, his birthday is right there, and it's there whenever it's there to remind me whenever I need it. I keep my perpetual calendar above my desk just to kind of keep on track with whose birthdays are coming up or whose anniversaries are coming up. If you're more of a tech person, using a Google Calendar and setting up an alert to remind you of someone's birthday a week ahead of time is great, because then you have time to grab a card and drop it in the mail and it'll arrive on time. I always have a stash of I have probably a stash of like 30 birthday cards. I just pick them up when I find something that's interesting or find something that reminds me of someone. So I always have a card on hand if I don't have a very specific card for someone. You can order online, you can shop on Etsy or Hallmark and get them delivered to your house. You never even have to leave your home to get a great birthday card for someone. And then lastly, I shared on the screen the Celebrate stamp that the post office came out with last year. And again, this one looks less impressive on the screen, but in person, it has like some really pretty foiling again. So the pink and turquoise are shiny. They're really fabulous. For birthday cards, I always try to decorate the envelope a little bit with some washi tape or rubber stamps, just to make it a little bit more festive and pop in the mailbox. For sympathy, I started keeping a little kit of sympathy cards just ready to go because my mom would tell me, I live a few hours away from my parents, and my mom would tell me that someone passed away, and it would leave my mind the second that our phone conversation ended, and then like 2 weeks later, I'd realize, oh my goodness, I never sent a sympathy card. So now I try to sit down and write it the moment I hear the news. And I have what I call my sympathy kit. I shared it on the screen, but I'm gonna hold it up in person too and talk about each little thing. But it's an old stationery box. And inside, I just keep this gray pen that is nice and somber and just a little different. And then I keep a variety of just blank cards. And these are just like, right now they're all floral. My kit changes just as I buy things. So I have these small little violet cards that I like to use. And then also I have these larger, if I know the person well, they're just like flat cards. So one side is white with the flowers, and then the other side has flowers just solid on the back. And then inside my sympathy kit, I always just keep some stamps. This way I always know that I have something that works for a sympathy card. The post office has like Bugs Bunny stamps and hip hop stamps, and I wouldn't want to put that on a sympathy card. I know maybe it's not a big deal, but for me, I just want to make sure I have something that kind of just goes with the feeling of the moment. So right now I just have these floral stamps. But this box lives in my drawer, and so whenever I hear the news that someone passes and I want to send a sympathy card, I just sit down and write it right away and drop it in the mail. And whenever my kit gets low, I fill it up again, just so I always am ready and I don't have to run out to the store. And it doesn't get lost in the shuffle of busy life. Okay, so that's a lot of card sending talk. Let's talk a little bit about letter writing. When I first started writing letters and sending cards, I was always so disappointed because no one wrote me back. Even my own grandmother did not write me back. It was very sad. So the thing is, among your real life friends, among your family members, you might not always get a response. And if a response is important to you, I think finding a pen pal, finding someone who shares your hobby and shares your enthusiasm for mail is going to be important. I send mail as my hobby, so I don't necessarily care if I get mail back. I still send my grandmother cards. I still send my mother cards. She doesn't always write back either. But with my pen pals, it's a nice conversation, and it makes mail a lot of fun because giving and receiving mail is fun. So when I was a kid, I had to rely on a teacher to set me up with a pen pal. My first pen pal was like some kid in New York in second grade. And then I had a French pen pal in high school with my French class. But nowadays, social media makes it really easy. Letter writing is a very analog hobby, but technology makes it a little bit easier. The Letter Writers Alliance was an organization that promoted the art and the act of letter writing. Their whole goal was just to get more people writing letters and sending mail. They retired a couple of years ago, but their website is still active. It's letterwriters.org, up on the screen for you. And they have a huge post on their very last blog post of all sorts of different organizations and places you can go online to find a pen pal. They also have a list of other organizations that have in-person letter writing socials, which are really fun. I know it sounds weird the act of letter writing is very, one person and kind of a quiet activity. But when you get a group of letter writers together, we're all talking about some of our favorite ways to send mail and our favorite pens and our favorite stationery and our favorite greeting cards of the moment. And it's really fun. And you actually do write mail in these letter socials. Most of my pen pals I found through the Letter Writers Alliance, but also other places to look. If you're familiar with Instagram, they have hashtags that kind of keep different topics together. I put some hashtags on the screen that are great places to follow people who are fellow mail lovers, and maybe through following and getting and sharing your own mail and getting involved in kind of the mail community, you'll find some pen pals. Reddit has a place where you can go and find pen pals. And then also this month is what's considered the month of letters, which was started by just a general letter writer. And it's a little movement where people write letters every day the post office is in service. So basically Monday through Saturday, the goal is to write at least one piece of mail every one of those days. And just kind of, get back in the groove of letter writing. Because it's the month of letters here in February, and because it's Valentine's Day in February, it's a great time to just start sending mail. And there's people out there who are also new to mail if you're new to mail. So it's a good time to be sending mail. And then just to note, not every pen pal is going to work out. People that I wrote to in the early 2000s, some of them have kind of fallen off either on letter writing, or maybe they weren't a great match with me personality wise. Maybe we didn't have a lot in common. Not every pen pal is going to work out. Don't feel offended. It is not you. It might not even be them. It's probably just the situation. Let's see. Oh, I should also mention, basically the key is to just kind of keep writing and keep trying until you find something that works. Okay, so I have this on the go. Remember when we could leave our houses? I have this on the go postcard kit that I used to carry around. It's like I never felt like I had enough time or focus when I was out and about to send a full letter, but I wanted to keep sending mail and make the most of my time without scrolling on my phone. So I would carry this little kit with me. And again, it was just in an old stationery box, nothing fancy. You just kind of use what you have. And inside I just kept a little stack of postcards, a couple pens. I have a travel address book. That's the little blue thing in the picture. And postcard stamps, and then my return address stamp and an ink pad. And basically, whenever I would like take my lunch break when I was at work, or wait in the car to pick up my husband from work, if I had a few minutes, I would just write a postcard. One of my favorite things to do is if I pick up my phone to send someone a text with either like a funny memory about them or just like a funny anecdote from my day, sometimes instead of sending that text, I'll just send a quick postcard because it's a little bit more fun. It's less instantaneous for me, but I think more fun for the recipients. At home, I also have what I call a letter writing kit, I guess. And since letter writing is my hobby, I have like a giant desk full of stationery supplies at my fingertips. Sometimes it's overwhelming because there's a lot to choose from. So I kind of curate it down into this little kit that just makes it easy to sit down and send mail without sifting through a lot of extra stuff. So this is what my letter writing kit at home looks like this month. Because it's Valentine's Day, I try to send Valentines to all my pen pals and all my family members, my grandma who won't send me one back. But it has like, I have a stash of Valentines, which you can see on the right side in the back, and my Valentine stickers, some Valentine postage. The little rolls are washi tape. And I don't know, last night I taught a card making workshop last night and people didn't know about washi tape. So I'm going to just tell you, it started in Japan, and it's made with Japanese washi paper, and it's just a paper tape. It's like a masking tape, so it's a little bit transparent, and it sticks, but it also removes really easily. So it's kind of fun to use in crafting because if you make a mistake, you can lift it off the paper and put it back on the paper. And it's just a really easy way to decorate your mail because there's millions of different patterns, and you can pretty much find something that will go with anything. And it's just a cheap, easy way to decorate your mail. Rubber stamps in my little kit. I have rubber stamps and stickers. Just things that make letter writing really easy. So I don't have to sift through like 1,000 craft supplies. It's just right there, ready to go when I am. And my address book lives right next to it on my desk shelf. You don't have to have a fancy wooden box to make this work. I keep mine in this little wooden toolbox. You can use a regular toolbox. You can use a shoebox or a little Tupperware container. Just try to keep all of your stuff together just so it's handy when the inspiration strikes. Another great tool is the letter ledger. So if you're like me and you send a lot of mail and receive a lot of mail, this is a great way to keep track of what's coming and what's going. You can see on the screen, there's a place to write down, I can open mine up. There's a place to write down the recipient's name and some things that you talked about in your letter. So items of note or interest. And there's a place to write down what stationery you used. Because I have a lot of stationery, I want to make sure that I'm not sending someone the same old, letter set or greeting card over and over again. So for me to write down like what stationery I use is a really great way just to keep track and keep the variety going for my pen pals. Funny story, my dad gave my mom the same exact birthday card 3 years in a row. He must have really liked it every time he went to the Hallmark store to pick it out. But I want to make sure that I don't send someone the same birthday card 3 years in a row. Yes, it is the thought that counts, but also like a variety is nice too. And let me finish back to the letter ledger. There's a place to record when you received the mail and when you responded to the mail. So you can kind of keep track of making sure you're staying on top of responding, because part of being a good pen pal is responding in a nice, timely manner. Although I will say the letter writing community is very forgiving, and if you're very busy, they'll still love you. Okay, a little bit about making mail fun. I know I mentioned decorating things for birthdays. I think it's completely fine if you just send a letter in a plain envelope, because again, it's the thought, it's the time, it's the effort that counts. But for me, because I love paper and I love playing with paper and mail is my hobby, decorating the envelope is really, it's really a delight for me. And again, it makes it stand out a little bit in the mailbox. These are ones that I sent out this summer. I love neon in the summer. And I basically just decorated the envelopes with scraps of paper, which is that kind of the patterned part, some round labels and washi tape. And then I used the postcard or popsicle stamps from the U.S. Postal Service, maybe last summer or the summer before that. They were scratch and sniff. The post office is just getting really wild with their stamps these days, but they were scratch and sniff and they smell like popsicles. So they were really fun. Vintage postage stamps. Did you know that postage stamps don't expire? So you can use a 1 cent postage stamp from the early 1900s and it still is worth 1 cent. As long as your vintage postage stamps add up to 55 cents for a first class letter within the United States, you can use them as postage. These are all on these letters that I'm showing you. These are all unused postage stamps that I have just in my collection because I love the mail. I have a stamp collection of stamps that I just keep to look at, and then I have a huge stamp collection of stamps that I use on my mail. It just kind of keeps things fun and interesting. On the right-hand side, like those were letters, like the first one is to my mom. So I used a love you mother stamp and a lot of like strong women and homemaker stamp for her Mother's Day card. And then the rest of those that I sent out with that same batch were like strong women cards. I just thought it would be fun. Sometimes there's a theme to the stamps. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes I'm just adding up to get 55 cents. But you can find vintage stamps on like Etsy. You can find them on eBay. There's a stamp show every summer called Compex. Well, I guess it's like spring. It's in the end of May usually. But a stamp show out in the suburbs. Sometimes it's near Schaumburg, but I think they've recently moved. But it's fantastic. You can just find all sorts of vintage postage, and it's just fun to use and fun to make your mail stand out a little bit more. Rubber stamps obviously are really fun to use. Just any craft supply store has them. Etsy has them, Paper Source. Just, again, ways to decorate. Let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay. So another thing that I think is really fun is all of your mail does not have to fit in an envelope. You can drop and mail anything from a blue U.S. Postal Service box, as long as it's 10 ounces or less, and it has the proper postage on it. So this is mail from my friend Donovan a couple Halloweens ago, and it's just a Halloween peep package that she slapped some stamps on and a sticker and dropped it in the mail, and it made it to me clearly. And it was just so much fun. I opened my mailbox and there was a candy treat. So 10 ounces or less, and it has to have the proper postage on it. So those are just kind of two things to remember. And also, like, there's other rules, like you can't send alcohol and hazardous materials. The website, the USPS website has a list of restricted materials. Let's see. Oh, this was something that I sent this summer. This is, I don't know, when you buy greeting cards, sometimes they come in this like clear box. And I like to save those and stick things in them to send as mail. Last year in Japan, we bought this tomato candy that we thought was really weird and interesting. So we mailed it to a bunch of our friends, and just like a handful of pieces. So I just put those in one of these clear card boxes and with a note and put the proper postage on, and I sent it to my parents. My dad recently sent my husband a can of sardines that he really likes. And usually in these cases, the mail sometimes, the cost of postage sometimes overrides the cost of what you're mailing. But I don't know, to me, it's worth it because it's just fun to share like that little bit. Another really fun thing is the Letter Writers Alliance used to sell these pigeons. So homing pigeons a long time ago were used to share messages, particularly at wartime, because they were good at, going to a specific place and coming back. And so the Letter Writers Alliance created this pigeon, and it's just this plastic pigeon. I think you can get them at like hunting stores maybe, but they sold these plastic pigeons that you would just drop in a mailbox. So it had this little clear plastic sticker that you would slide a message in, tape it on the back of the pigeon, and put the proper postage on the pigeon, and then he just squeezes into a blue box. You can also take it to the post office counter, but oftentimes if you take it to the post office counter, the postal worker might insist that you put it in a box. This way they don't really have a choice. They just mail it for you. But he's less than 10 ounces. He had his proper postage. I think he was like $3 or $4 to mail, but this was several years ago. And I mailed him to my dad, who loves pigeons. And my dad has one of those mailboxes, like a rural mailbox. And he opened up his mailbox one day, and there was this pigeon laying there, and he just thought it was hilarious. He got a huge kick out of it. And then he went and bought a bird to mail to me, which was great. I love that I can get my dad excited about sending mail. Something else that I've mailed, these giant pencils. I don't know, they were like this big and this big around. Again, I just put the person's address on it, and I put apparently $3 worth of postage on it and dropped it in a blue box. And a few days later, my friend received her pencil. Some other kind of fun things that you can mail in the fall: tiny pumpkins. Just handwrite the address on the pumpkin, put the stamps on the pumpkin, put it in a blue box. Frisbees. You can send a flip-flop or a flip-flop, and then a few days later, the other flip-flop. A small kickball. Right now, I think a box of candy hearts would be a fun thing to send as like a really cute Valentine. A box of movie candy would be fun. Just, again, put a label, address it, put the proper postage on, and just drop it in a blue box. It's a little fun and unexpected. Going back to envelopes, anything can be an envelope. This was a bag of popcorn. This farm store that I like when I visit my parents, there's this farm store called Rural King, and I get some plants there every spring. And well, I don't know if they do anymore, but before the pandemic, they served popcorn. You just scooped it into a bag and you could walk around the store eating your popcorn. Those were the days. But one time when I was there, I took an extra bag and I used it as an envelope. I wrote a letter, stuck it inside, and taped it up in the back and put a label and a stamp on it. And I shared with my pen pal Shannon at the time, just the story of, visiting my parents and our trip to Rural King. And I think we talked about gardening in the letter. But it was just like, again, fun and unexpected. Another thing, my little supplies here. Another fun thing is you can make a template out of an envelope template out of an old envelope. So you just open up an envelope, like unglue the bottom and the top and trace it, and you can make your own envelope. So I made this envelope out of an old stamp catalog. So you just trace it onto the catalog and fold it up. And now it's an envelope ready to be sent, again, with a label on it. This one I made out of some vintage Valentine paper. So you don't have to just send a white envelope or a pink envelope. You can send a fun pattern envelope. It makes a really great basis for mail art. And then a lot of greeting cards these days come in these little clear plastic sleeves. And I like to reuse them. I have a little stash. I like to reuse them and use them as envelopes. So I shared this last night in my card making workshop. This is just a little postcard that I'm going to be sending to my parents. I dropped in some fun iridescent confetti, so it kind of makes it like a shaker card. I just wrote the word love. I'll probably add some, like a little letter or something late when I'm done. But I taped it up on the side with some washi tape, and then I have the address, but I'm going to finish the address here, and I have the stamp on the outside of the cellophane. But sometimes it's just kind of fun. It's a see-through way. You can see what's in the mail. I'm very close to being done. Oh, are we running out of time?
Wait, no, we're not at all. But we have been getting some people in the chat who find it very hard to believe that you can really mail these objects.
I promise you can. I've tried it and I've received things.
So do they, some people said they're surprised because do they have to go through a scanner? And there haven't been, I mean, do people still get these things in like a normal amount of time? There are no delays?
So my parents live like 2 hours south, and usually when I mail something to them, it takes like 2 days, 3 days, and the pigeon was there within 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, as long as you put the right postage on. I know there are times, like I think somebody tried to send a small hammer once and it was rejected. So there are times you get like a cranky postal worker who might say no, but 9 times out of 10, I would say 9.5 times out of 10, it's just fine.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to interject, so please go ahead.
Not at all. So this was something that my friend Robin sent me. She, this is, you maybe will be able to see it better on the screen, but this is a trading card, like a trading card pockets. If you're like a baseball card collector, the baseball cards go in each of these slots and you have like your binder full of baseball cards. But my friend Robin sent me mail with it. And when it arrived, it was folded up like this. And she had washi tape along the sides to seal it up. So it was kind of like an envelope. And I opened it up with the washi tape. And in each of these little pockets is just like a little artistic delight. Robin is a really great artist. And so she filled the pockets with a lot of her own work. So in this pocket was a letter. And then these are like some little coloring cards she makes. In this pocket are some like just decorative papers that she makes, like a little garland. This one has some stickers in it and some like a little tiny painting. And then in this pocket, she shares like a ton of ideas of other ways or other things that you can add to these pockets. And she gave me my own pocket to mail out to someone else. Oh, there's also a friendship bracelet and a little mini notepad in the pocket too. Some things I've used already. But anyway, sending, you could put tea in each of these pockets and send it to a tea lover. You could make your own little like garlands and paintings and stickers to share with people. But it was just a really unexpected thing in my mailbox with just like 9 little treats inside, which was really fun. Let's see. And she used a mailing label, but again, you would just weigh it and put the proper amount of postage. And I should talk a moment while we're talking about sending weird things in the mail. If you are going to send weird things in the mail, it's good to have a little scale. I have this, it's like a kitchen scale made by Joseph, and it folds up, and so it's transportable. When I left my house more often, I would carry it with me in my mail kit. But so yeah, it folds up and it has pounds and ounces, so I can weigh my mail down to the 1/10 of an ounce. And I'm going to just go to the USPS website really fast just to show you. There's a postage price calculator on the USPS website, and you just put in where you're sending your mail to, and they're asking you if you're mailing like remains or hazardous materials. So they do check. And then usually I click on the calculate price based on size and shape. And so like I said, you can mail anything up to 10 ounces in a box. And if you should click package. So even if it's like a pigeon that's not in a box, he's still kind of a package. And then it'll populate and it'll tell you all the different ways. So I'm obviously not going to send my pigeon 2-day express, and my pigeon is not media mail. That's just for books and CDs and things. But he would be, if I wanted to use first class mail, he would cost $5.50, and my parents could expect it on Monday, February 8th. So mail is running a little bit slower now than it was back when I sent my dad the pigeon. So that's like 9.5 ounces worth of mail that I would drop in a blue box. Let's see. Oh, this is one that I saw recently on Instagram. Colorado Correspondence Company. They're like a little letter writing group, and the organizer last year or the year before sent out these the one on the left are these just iridescent heart decorations that she bought at Target. On the back side, she used it as a postcard and wrote the Valentine message and then addressed it on the front side. And if you're going to send something weird as a postcard, you should put a first class like forever stamp on it instead of a postcard stamp. And then on the right-hand side, these were those foam craft materials. So those are foam hearts. You can get them at Michael's and other craft supply stores. So those are foam hearts. And again, I think she wrote messages on the back. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Maybe she just addressed it and sent the heart. For those, she used a special cancellation stamp. So those are, I think, 72-cent stamps now, because it's a little bit thicker than your standard mail. And also it bends. But she said all of them made it happily to her recipients. So I thought those were cute, so I wanted to share those. And then just before we close or before we get to questions, I just want to share with you a few resources. All of the books that I've shared tonight are available in the library system. And also, like, you could purchase them too. But I checked to see if they were all available in the library system, and they are. The first one is this book called Good Mail Day, and it's a great primer for if you want to start decorating your envelopes and making mail art and doing creative things with your mail. This is just a really great resource and a great start. A couple things that I wanted to highlight. There's a page, I probably should have scanned this in, but there's a page where they talk about kind of going on a walk and picking up things like little ephemera. I don't know if we want to do that today with a pandemic happening, but think about like the things that you, on a normal day when you could leave your house more often and live more freely, candy packages, maybe a ticket for a bus, a business card like at a restaurant that you ate at, tea bag, like the outside wrapper of a tea pack, a tea bag, your dry cleaning tickets, a bird feather, using like just little things from your day and decorating an envelope with that or including that in your mail is just like a fun way to connect with your recipient. And then they use the envelope template, and they have like this whole stack of fancy envelopes made from magazines and other ephemera. The next book is this Happy Mail, and this is technically, I think, written for children, but it's in my collection anyway. This one's really fun. They have a few different alphabets that you can practice. So you can practice your handwriting and make fun handwriting for making cards or making envelopes. And they shared like these random holidays. So instead of just sending cards for like the major holidays, sending cards for National Letter Writing Day or Umbrella Day. Another one of my favorite months is April, which is National Card and Letter Writing Month. I always try to send out a lot of mail during that month just to celebrate. So this one, it's very childlike, but I think there's some really good ideas for adults in here. And then finally, Hello Tokyo. This is written by an artist who lives in Tokyo, and it's a lot of crafts, but she shares, again, she has like some other like fun ideas of, some fun ideas of how to send little things in the mail. Like she's sending this like giant watermelon that she put a stamp on, not a real watermelon, like a cardboard watermelon. But just she has some very fun and whimsical ideas of ways to kind of make your mail fun and make it a little jazzed up. I think that is everything. So if you guys have questions, I'm happy to take them.
Yeah, so you guys, real quick, before we do questions, I forgot to do this in the beginning. I'm going to send out a little poll right now, and it just asks you how many people are watching from your house. So if it's just you, that's fine. If it's more than one person, but as soon as you click and answer, it'll clear off your screen, and then we can go to questions. Another thing that I wanted to just kind of throw out there, because you all are here and you may be interested in letter writing, and Kimberly was kind of talking about pen pals. So if you guys are interested, I'm going to put my email in the chat box. And if you guys want to get paired with a possible pen pal from this group,
I love this idea.
Yeah, so you can just send me your name and a little bit about yourself, just a couple sentences, maybe something that you're interested in, any hobbies that you might have, and then your address. And what I can do is kind of look at who, if people filled it out, and then kind of match you with somebody. So let me put my email address in there, and that could be something fun if you guys are interested in that. So that's just sdriscoll@stdl.org. Okay, now, so for questions, you can just type them into the chat if you have any, or you can use the Q&A. Let me see, what did we get? Okay, Bev is asking, what are good places to find labels to be used on decorated envelopes?
Oh, that's a good question. A lot of my labels come from Paper Source. It's in my neighborhood, so it's very handy for me to go there. Target sometimes has some really fun labels, and you can even just get like the basic, I think they're Avery labels at an office supply store, and then you can decorate those with rubber stamps, or I can stop sharing my screen if I want. You can decorate those with rubber stamps, or draw a border around those just to make it a little bit fancier. But Paper Source has some really great ones that are already decorated for you if you want to start with that.
Okay, Denise wants to know, what about protocol as to timeframes for responding to sympathy cards, thank you cards, wedding gifts? Do you respond to a card with a card?
You can. I had a friend who had her own stationery store, and she had a card that was thank you for your thank you. So it kind of kept that going. I think it was a postcard. But you So I don't think you have to respond to a sympathy card, but if you're moved to, of course, I think it's always welcome. If something like, really touches your heart and you want to thank them for their comforting words, I think that's really great. I think with sympathy and with babies, and probably less so with wedding, I feel like people really are into wedding etiquette, but I feel like with sympathy and babies, like a new baby, you have so much grace because you're overwhelmed. And so no one is expecting a lot of you in those situations. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah. Mike wants to know, do any of your candy boxes ever arrive empty?
They have not. So far, they've all worked out.
Okay, so Denise had another question. What is the smallest and the largest card that can be sent?
So the smallest, let's see, it's on the USPS website. So whatever a 4-bar card is, I think it's like 3.5 by 5, I think is the smallest, absolute. And then the largest, I don't know that there's necessarily a largest, but so half of a sheet of paper. So let me do my math. Let's see, 8.5 by 5.5, right? 8.5 by 11. Yeah, 8.5 by 5.5 is the largest envelope that you can send, as long as it still is, the proper weight. This is the largest that you can send with just a first class stamp. But if you go larger than that, you just have to put more postage on, and you can put your dimensions on the USPS website that I just showed you. You can put your dimensions in there and the weight, and it'll calculate it for you. So you can put the right amount of stamps on.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see. I think that might be all of our questions for now. Does anyone else have anything else they want to ask?
Oh, tomorrow's National Soup Day. What a fun day to paste a soup label or something on an envelope. Or you can send what?
It's very surprising to see if you're looking for something to write about, you can just look it up. Like every day is like a multiple theme day. So yes. All right. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was really great.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope I inspired you to send some mail.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for everyone for coming. And again, if you have any questions, you can email me at sdriscoll@stdl.org, and we will see you later. Thank you.